Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Female Filmmakers Fuse with Alexa Polar, only on LA Talk Radio.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Alexa Polar. I'm your host. I'm here with my co-host, Robin Pabello.
Hello, happy Sunday.
Robin, just real quick, the same just as always, where can people tune in for this?
You can find Female Filmmakers Fuse Podcast on any of your favorite podcasts. We are on iTunes, Google Play, and live every Sunday. And like and subscribe.
All right, awesome. You can also call in 818-602-4929. That's 818-602-4929. Today we have this amazing director, filmmaker from Brooklyn, New York, and that's actually where she's at right now.
Brooklyn.
She's in Brooklyn. Brooklyn's in the house. Tiffany Bartok. Hi, Tiffany. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. I mean, the weather's nice. It's cooling down. How's the weather in New York?
Oh, it's disgusting. Last week was magical, and now it's like punishing us for all the greatness last week, I think. But it's just a little muggy and gross, that kind of thing.
All right.
Yeah, I've been to New York in the summer, and it's really interesting, like how different the summer is there in comparison to California. I felt like it was hotter in New York than it is in California.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
My first
Definitely.
my first experience in New York was going to my cousin's wedding, and it was in the summertime, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Put me back in Cali. I want to be by the beach. But I have to say that I absolutely love the food in New York.
Oh, yeah.
And like just walking around the city has been amazing.
Yeah, I love New York. I always love to visit. There's one of my favorite cities and states, and it's just, the people are great. It's so weird because I never understand how people always make fun of like the New York attitude. I don't get that. I think what I've encountered is like people are a lot more nicer, polite in New York than the people I encounter in California for the most part. So I never understood that.
It really, I mean, after 9/11, I think it made a complete change, for permanent change,
Yeah.
I think that's not a thing anymore for sure.
Yeah, definitely not a thing anymore. So let's get into this. You're a director. How did you become a director?
Just sheer will, I think. I started out in makeup, and I'm a makeup artist still now. That's like my trade. And I met my husband on set. He was an actor, and then we began making films together. And this is like 2003, and we made like a documentary about Elvis fans for like $5, and sort of got the bug. And he made a feature next. He wrote a feature, and then I started producing. If he would write and direct, I would produce it. And then for this last movie, I wanted to do something on Kevyn because he's a makeup artist and my idol. And then my husband was like, okay, I'll produce this one.
Nice.
You should just be the sole director for this one. So this is my debut.
That's awesome. And that's a great partnership that you have, like not only in life, but work as well. How does that flow between the two? Do you guys try to separate your work life from your personal life when you're on set?
That's hilarious. No, impossible.
Right?
It's such a challenge. I mean, it might look great on the outside to all our friends, but when we sort of have a family vibe for everything. Like our teams are always the same, and sort of we have family dinner night, which is basically a production meeting, and they've seen it all, and we definitely try to say no talk about work after 7 for our son's sake, but it does not happen.
It's tough, especially if you're producing. I mean, that's just like a 24-hour call with whatever's on your slate.
Yeah.
So, just to bring it back, so wait, how did you get into makeup?
This is so funny. I was an actor. I trained for acting. That's why I moved to New York. So I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to school in Philly at the University of the Arts, and I was like totally spoiled in the acting program there, like this lead roles and like, oh my God, this is it. I can't wait till the world sees you, you know. And then I got to New York and I was like, oh, you know,
yes.
this
oh
is
my
it.
goodness.
This is it. I don't, what? I'm here, guys. Like, what? What are you waiting for? So the auditioning thing, like, I was the worst waitress. I could not wait tables. I mean, like, fired all the time. And so I was like, how am I going to live? Like, can they pay me to audition? Like, can that be a thing? So I was always really good at makeup. So I just, I went to the Bloomingdale's counter and I was like, how do you do that? Like, how do you get to have this as a job? And she was like, oh my God, I need someone to start tomorrow. Someone just quit.
No.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It was the Smashbox counter.
Oh my
God. And I was like, just do the next 3 faces that come over so I can see how you do makeup. So I did. And then she was like, can you start tomorrow? And I like started the next day.
What a happy
Wow.
accident.
It was nuts. It was like, you know, and I was doing that book called The Artist's Way at the time. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
So I recommend The Artist's Way to everybody because I think it sort of like opened you up to hearing things, you know, and I was always leaning, like, it sort of asked you to examine what you're really good at and stuff, and makeup kept coming up, and, you know, so that's that's the gift that it gave. And then I just started, you know, from there I wanted to be a movie makeup artist. And then when it came to me becoming an actual movie makeup artist, the next step was to be union. And then that was just too hard to build the days together. It was like, I started making the films before I did that whole union, you know,
jump.
push.
Yeah.
So I just never did that. And but that if I were to still be doing makeup, I think that's what I would want to do is movie makeup.
Oh, that's
nice.
interesting.
So what sparked the interest into producing then? Because, you know, going from makeup to producing, was it something on set that inspired you? Because I know that you said that you met your husband on set, but like what kind of pushed you to like bump up into producing?
Well, it was just sort of that, you know, I've always just had that thing of like not hearing no and like, you know, let's figure it out. Like, you know, no excuses and like, okay, well, if we need that thing, let's go get it. If we need this thing, let's go get it. If we need, you know, that person, let's go ask them. And so that sort of just lent itself. And all of a sudden, you know, people started calling me a producer.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess that's what's happening here. You know, like in the beginning, I'm not kidding. I mean, I have chased Christopher Walken down the street and I told him someone sent me and here's the script. Like, I have done the craziest things and then they just turned into not crazy things. You know, like it started as like completely, you know, fearless craziness to like, oh, actually, this is how you do that, you know.
That's hilarious.
So I just sort of learned as I went, you know, if we want to make this movie, you know, this is how we'll do it. And I was just always really organized and, you know, could delegate people and sort of talk people into coming along and build teams. And I think that's sort of the key really is to like, you know, supporting the people who know what they're doing around you. You know?
Absolutely. Now, when I was growing up, I always differentiate New York from California by, especially when it comes to acting in the industry. I always felt like New York was more of a theater place, and then California was more of the film and television place. And I know it hasn't been like that for a long time, where you do a lot in both. Obviously, in New York, there's more theater life. There's, you know, you have more access to it. Here, it's more like it's not the same. It's not as strong in California. Would you say that it has changed, like there is more opportunity in film and television in the East Coast?
Now, there's so many more series here. You know, we live right by Steiner Studios and tons of things get made there. And Spike is really, Spike's got a lot going on lately. Spike Lee. we live in Fort Greene, right where his annex is. And, you know, she's got to have it here, and a couple features, actually. So, you know, that's been one thing. And so a lot of things have been coming here, but it's all dependent on that tax rebate. There's 30%.
Yeah. It's 30?
We made one movie. Yeah.
Okay.
We made one movie here, Fall to Rise, that Jace directed. And yeah, we really utilized that 30%. It's super great. If that ever went away, I think it would be a huge problem.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that California suffers with, is the fact that they
what is that?
They take away the tax incentive and then they put it back and then they take it away.
We just got approved for tax incentives and they're still trying to work out some more deals and stuff. But yeah, it's I'm not quite. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I'm not quite sure how to put my finger on the nose on that, just because we want it. And obviously, you know, the reason why we want the tax incentives to stay here is because if we live here, you're closer to your family. You're not traveling out, you know, like it's less time on set and it's more time with your loved ones, or, you know, whatever it is. It's just more time at home, you know, like, trust me, I don't mind a travel job, but at the same time, like, if I could stay home and still go home and like have dinner with like friends and family that's right there, it's kind of nice, you know.
Robin, you were offered a job in, where was it, Georgia? And they said it was, or was it I thought it was Georgia. What state was it where they said it was cheaper
Atlanta.
to live?
So I don't know that it's cheaper to live there. I think, you know, a lot of people are just saying go to Georgia because there's like how it is in New York. There's not a lot going on, like not as much as in California, but like I think there's a lot of outsourcing, and I think the reason why, you know, there's like they've over the years have built more for Atlanta, and a lot of people go out there. But again, it's like New York, where like, do you want to move? You know, do you want to like replant and stay there for like 6 months to a year?
Yeah.
You know, you're away from family, you're away from friends, and you're like, you know, you're on your own, which is fine if you want to like progress your, you know, your networking circle and work in different cities, and that's also good too. But like, I was actually just in New York back in April, and we were doing a feature for like 3 weeks, and thankfully, like, you know, director and the DP producing flew us out, and we worked, you know, like just the like 2 keys worked, and then everyone else was local hire. So, and it was interesting because they're just totally different in the way that we work, you know, California versus New Yorkers. And I was like, oh, okay, they use these things called hampers because it saves space, because New York is such a compact, you know, living space. And I was like, oh, we have carts for this. And I was like, okay, well, our carts won't fit in these elevators. So I was like, all right, well, it was like interesting to kind of, just to kind of like really understand, like, you know, the difference between like East Coast versus West Coast and the way that they work. So it was it was fun. It was a nice little learning curve. I'm actually going to be out there in August to do a little something for like 5 or 7 days.
Tiffany, have you worked outside of New York, or has everything been there? As far as film
is in New York.
Everything for you is in New York. And do you have? Is it because, aside from the family and everything, you know, is it because of that, or that you find more opportunity there?
I think it's more our connections. We're really like, you know, our resources are all here. I wouldn't know what to do in LA necessarily, you know, where to go. And so I would have to just learn it, you know, which is fine. You know, I just don't know who to ask and what places to use.
Right.
You know, just because we've always done things in New York, but we had to do, for the documentary, we went out to LA a couple of times. So, you know, we have some resources there, and my brother-in-law runs the Egyptian.
Okay.
So
nice.
We know that the Lumley, the movie's playing actually at the Lumley this whole week.
Yeah.
So they've been really good to us.
It's great
too.
theater.
But yeah. So, but those are the only things that we know is like the distribution stage, you know.
Okay.
So wait, you said that it's playing in the theater. Can you like promote that for listeners?
Let's go into it. What's the name of the film? Let's get into that. What's the name of the project?
Larger Than Life, the Kevyn Aucoin Story.
Great. And then, because I saw like bits and pieces of it in the trailer, it looks really great. You have some really amazing people in that documentary. How did you come across? How did you get into that, or getting these people involved?
Begging, talking. We, because of Jace and I having good relationships with agents and stuff from over the years, because Jace has always been a working actor. And so the agencies and the gatekeepers were super helpful with a couple key people. And then once we got that, then, once you get a couple key people, like I think we got Cindy Crawford and Isaac Mizrahi, and then they start talking to each other, like, why aren't you in this? And,
exactly.
Then they sort of, I was waiting for you to call, and it gets a little bit easier, you know what I mean? I heard you're doing something on Kevyn, yes, I would love to have an interview. And then we met his assistant, Troy Surratt, who came on as a producer, and then that got us a lot of access to, really elite fashion people, so and makeup and beauty people. So it was, luckily, that was not the hard part. It was hard to you get a call the night before, and it was like, Naomi Campbell can do this tomorrow, no other time, and so I would have to
oh my gosh,
run out of a movie theater.
Yeah.
I remember once I was watching watching Bad Moms Christmas or something, or, Bad Moms. I was finally with my girlfriends having a break, and I was I had to go to the bathroom really quickly and plan the whole shoot for Naomi Campbell.
Wow.
But so it was pretty crazy and fun, that year. But
so what inspired? Is this something that came from you? Did you put this together? I know it's someone that you looked up to. Is that why you did it, or did someone else come to you with this idea?
Well, after we made Jace's movie Fall to Rise, we were like, what should we do next? And we were talking about how can we get corporate work, and we sort of wanted to and I was like, you know what, I can't believe there's no documentary on Kevyn. And our intern at the time, who's now much more than an intern, she was like, who's Kevyn? And I was like, Kevyn Aucoin. And she was like, I don't know who that is. And she's a millennial. And I was like, what are you talking about?
That's the STEM.
Oh my God, this is happening. I got out all his books, and she was like, holy crap, this is amazing. There's nobody like this. And I was like, right? Am I crazy? I mean, if you're saying that, that's telling me that it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked it up online, and there was a show about him, a retrospective in LA. So I sent her to shoot it, and then that's how we started.
Oh,
very nice.
Very, very nice. And so it's really great that it's someone that you were a little bit inspired by, correct?
Definitely. Everyone was.
No,
Everyone,
of course. But it helped out even more so from your end. Tell the story. Because I'm saying, there's sometimes where I get hired or I have done documentaries where you don't have that certain attachment or that desire. But for the most part, you try to do things that you want to do.
And it's interesting. That can be good sometimes. And, you need to have one of each, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So Jace didn't know anything about makeup. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that was a really good balance to keep you in check, so you're not going too far into just fandom.
Yeah. Yeah, the balance of it between, I think, is definitely,
totally.
Yeah, because if you don't have that, the perspective has changed, and you're right, you lose sight of what the message is going to be, because you end up, fangirling per se, and so...
Yep.
You don't want it to be that. You want to give it, a message, and what he was all about, and his struggles and his trials and his tribulations,
mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. I mean, looking it up and looking at the trailer, I mean, it just was, I was like, wow, that's solid.
And did you learn anything? Because usually when I do a documentary, I learn something new, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm so glad I did this because I learned that, and I take it forever. Did you learn something new based on the work you've done on this documentary?
I mean, a lot of people ask me that. And then, do you mean about Kevyn? Or
yeah.
Filmmaking?
No, about Kevyn.
About Kevyn, yeah, definitely. I mean, he was so much more than makeup. I mean, I never knew sort of the dark side, and I never knew how human he was, and I never knew I never knew how funny he was. Like, I unearthed all these crazy old tapes that are just completely insane. And a lot of people were like, don't show these. Oh, they're so, they're so weird, and like, they're not beautiful. And I was like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
This is exactly what makes people connect with him, because they were just like insane, goofy, kids running around New York tapes, and that's sometimes people's favorite part of the movie, just sort of seeing that he was just like us,
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
like, if you idolize someone, or you look up to them, or if they've influenced you to do something that's what their speciality is, to show that human side of somebody, because you want to have that human connection. You want to see, like, how can I be that person? How can I get to where they are?
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to do. And if you see, like, oh, okay, I'm struggling, and you see those goofy goofy beats, or like when he was crying, I was just like, oh, why is he crying? Like, what got him to that place? Like, you can see the person consoling him. It gives you more motivation to, like, being able to relate to one another, that even though someone that may seem on the outside that they have everything together doesn't necessarily mean they do on the inside or behind closed doors.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to just for anyone that's listening that wants to get into documentary filmmaking or is doing it, there's something that I came across. It was more recently, and you don't have to go into detail, but just to help out anyone that's listening. For the most part, especially if you're doing it independently, the people that you interview, it's not like they're actors, obviously. So they're just there talking about the subject matter. I approached someone that we wanted to get for a documentary, and for example, she asked if there was an honorarium. That was the only way she would do it, which an honorarium is pretty much pay. So, like, pretty much like, I will do your documentary unless I get paid, and I want to know how much I'm going to get paid for. And I want to know if that's something you came across with.
What is that?
Yeah.
No. What is that? I've never been asked that.
Yeah, I've done a couple of documentaries, and I've never came across that until now. We obviously didn't interview her. It was for many other reasons why we didn't, we just there was other things too. I think we're trying to think of one, because we did want her on the documentary, but we just stopped filming for a minute. So it was just something that I've never came across, and I had to ask a producer, because I was like, wait, what is this? And they're like, oh, sometimes, depending on who the person is that you're interviewing for a documentary, they will ask for that because of their time or whatever. And so they'll sit for a couple hours, but you do have to give them something as a thank you. And so that was the first time I came across, and they said it is a normal thing. And so I wanted to see if that was something you did, like, come across it at all, especially with the people that you were working with.
Never. No one asked that. You know what my people asked for was hair and makeup. And it was not, and you know what, it would be interesting to know if the agent asked that or if the person asked that, because maybe the agent was just asking. Because at first I was like, I would get things back that's like, hi, I will present this to so-and-so. Is there hair, makeup, travel? And I would be like panicking on my other side, like, oh my God, so-and-so wants this, this, and this. And then I was like, I'm just going to say no, there isn't. I don't have it. I don't have that.
Right,
so I just would say no. And then they would write back, okay. And then they would still ask them. So, sometimes they're just getting all the information for the ask, because they want to have it all prepared when they get the time with that person. So, like, if you're sitting down, with Linda Evangelista, you're like, this company wants you for this. This is what's being offered. This documentary on Kevyn wants you. They have $400 for the makeup artist. So I was thinking we could ask Nancy if she'll do it for a favor, and they're just trying to get organized.
Exactly.
But sometimes it's not a deal breaker. Or you could say, oh, is that a deal breaker? I can see what we can come up with. Is that a deal breaker? Or you could offer to give some money to their charity. But I never, nobody ever asked for a budget. They would just say, is there a budget for a car, hair, or makeup?
Yeah, I've come across where I've been asked to be on panels and they're just like, oh, we'll get you an honorarium. I'm like, no, that's okay. Like, I'm there to like share, because if I can give back to the community, then I don't mind that, you know, especially if I'm able to. And I think too, you know, you will run across it. I think it depends on, you know, if they're high profile and like what their schedule is like, depending on like kind of their stature. I think that's definitely where that falls into. Right. I've heard of that. But I feel like the documentary that we're referencing, you know, Larger Than Life, is because these people were so grateful to him. Right. That's one way of giving back to him.
Absolutely.
Or paying tribute. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like each is a case by. Exactly.
I didn't think there was one, but it's something I came across, and I wasn't sure if there's anyone else that's listening, if they've, you know, fallen across that as well. You know,
sure.
I think it's I think it's dependent upon case.
Because I did respond to the person. I said, this is something that we don't really have a budget for, but like, what are you? What's fair? And then it ended up not going through anyhow, so it didn't really matter. But it's just the first time I was asked that. And so it kind of took me back. I had to look it up. I was like, what is she talking about?
Like, that's so funny. Yes, I would have had to too. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of everything, is just like, you know, trying to understand, because like no one knows everything. So it's kind of nice that you can be like, oh, okay, what's this? You know? Like,
I'm constantly learning. Is that something that, I know this is like your debut as a director, but do you feel like there's sometimes like even when you're doing makeup, you learn something new and you're like, oh, okay, noted. Like, that's great.
Absolutely, all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. I think if you're pretending to know everything, I think that's defeating.
Yeah. And it's, the approach is important too. Like, meaning like, because sometimes I'm really sensitive, because, you know, my self-esteem is not where it should be, and so there's times where I'm on set, and if someone says something and I'm directing and someone points something out, I get kind of me personally get embarrassed, and I'm like, okay, like, what did I do wrong? You know, so that's just something I deal with. But
of course. What is that? They call that something, imposter syndrome.
Exactly. So I make a mental note, like, okay, so don't do that again, like, or learn from that. So that's why on set I'm learning all the time.
I think that I think that you are all the time, because if you don't, you know, then you're not growing.
Right.
Also, it's not that you're doing something wrong, or that, you know, it's just that you haven't learned it yet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that's just me personally. That's what I'm saying.
No, I know. But if you can shift your perspective of it not being self-detrimenting, like it's more of a, oh, I wasn't aware of that. Because like I think one of the best things that my mentor has said to me is like, hey, you know, if you think that you're great and you've done everything, then you're not doing something right. So you need to remember, like, there's always something to learn, because it's a constant shifting of gear and technology and lenses and lighting. Tiffany, I'm a DP, so that's the reason why I'm referencing all camera and lighting stuff. So you know what I mean?
That's always
it's a constant shift, and that's what's kind of beautiful about it, is that you do have to learn. And it's funny because now, you know, these old Super 16 lenses and like spherical lenses that were photo lenses are coming back into like this loop of like, oh, okay, anamorphic and then spherical, and that's, you know, the pendulum is always swinging,
right?
You know, so, you know, it's kind of quite nice is that we're going back and then utilizing what was the classic moves. So
yeah, absolutely. Now, Tiffany, with this film, I mean, it's amazing that it's your debut as a director, and then the fact that it's gotten into so many festivals, and then it's already garnered an award, correct?
Congrats.
For best film.
Thank you.
For best documentary, correct?
Best documentary in Louisiana, where actually he was from. So I mean, if I didn't win that would be very embarrassing. And and in Canada, at the Female Eye Film Festival. That was really an honor.
Yeah, those nominations, and you had 2 wins and a couple of nominations. So definitely wishing you the best. But it looks fantastic.
Thank
I mean,
you.
The direction of the message. You know, I'd love to take a look at it.
And it's playing until when here in California, or where is it playing at? You know, if you can pinpoint more or less where people can find it.
Okay, so if you go to the Lumley website, I think it's through the 25th.
Okay.
And it's also on the Facebook page under event screenings. I have a link there, and to all the event screenings, but they're a little bit scattered. They're at different times and stuff because I think it's part of their Culture Vulture event, and then so that makes it so it's not like a it's like driving me crazy because I can't be like 7 p.m. Friday through Tuesday. It's all different times. So if you just check on the Lumley site and confirm it, it's running now.
That's awesome. And then what are your plans after?
It's on iTunes.
Oh, it's on
It'll
iTunes?
Be on sale, for everybody on July 31st. I forgot to mention. The Orchard's distributing it. It's on Amazon and iTunes on July 31st.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get that. That's great. So what are your plans after this? Because, I mean, this is where it's at. You have, all the right people involved in it. I mean, all these elite people in the industry. That's just amazing, especially for something that's your first time doing as a director, not, just in the industry as overall. And what are your plans after this?
I don't know. I mean, there's so many things that I want to make a documentary on. I'm just always in the office pitching them to Matador. But it's all about access. So I have to find like the key, you know what I mean? I would love to do something on Sheila E. I would love to do something on Gucci. There was this famous murder in the Gucci family. And I just want to talk to the family about what that is like, living with the legacy of something so glamorous and then having this horrible thing happen. And, that girl, the imposter, I forget her name always, but it's like such a, the imposter socialite.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look her name up, but, and then Jace is making, he wrote The Prince of Soho, which, I'll produce. That'll be filming in New York, speaking of the tax credit. It's about his life in, growing up with his mom in Soho and then like an art heist.
Okay.
So this is like all a true story. They heard about a Basquiat brick, that was signed, and they wanted to excavate it to pay the rent.
Oh,
and
wow.
So it's a cool like little bit retro, right before the Twin Towers fell.
Okay.
And in the streets of Soho. So we just have to find a street that looks like Soho anymore. Oh my God, so gentrified.
Oh, completely. Especially
So
Brooklyn.
Lots of ideas.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. That's really great. I mean, what's great about it is that this film is doing so well and it's succeeded so well. I think it would help you out tremendously going on to the next one. Because it's not.
It's so hard not to be jaded. I mean, I've lived with this for 4 years, and I'm sure everyone listening can completely relate, and you two can completely. Is that they're like, this thing we had to finance ourselves. I mean, we did have help, a lot of help, but it's. People say when you get Cher, you'll have the money. When you get Kate Moss, you'll have the money, and none of that happens. When you finish the movie, you'll get the money. When it's done, when you get the LA Times review, you're gonna get your next one made. So it's just always uphill, and it's so hard to step back and realize what you've accomplished.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really, really, really hard. You sort of have to just force yourself to do it,
Absolutely. No, and it was weird. Ironically, we were talking about this on set. We filmed yesterday, Robin and myself. We were on set yesterday, and we were discussing how sometimes your motivation to do one thing could lead you into doing other things to get there. So, for example, we use, La La Land. The writer-director wanted to do La La Land, and everyone said no to him. So then he went and did Whiplash, the short film, which garnered all this that was amazing for a short film.
Right.
And then he did Whiplash, the feature, and got awards, and he got an Oscar and all this. And then after that, he said, now can I do La La Land? So it's kind of interesting how he did all that just for La La Land. Yeah. And so that's what I mean. He proved himself, and that's what I'm talking about. You just proved yourself with this project, and it's kind of look what I did, look where I'm at. We did this. And so here's the next one we want to do. And you can show it to as well, like with the Gucci family. You can say like, look, this is what we did in honor, and this is the success of it. We'd like to honor your story. You know, would you allow us to do that? And I think it's a lot easier to approach it like that now that you have the proof, like, here it is. You know, look how great it did, and look where it's at independently, which is amazing. You know, that's, you got to give yourself credit for that.
Are you going to charge me for this pep talk? This amazing therapy session. I'm really digging it.
But I mean it though, honestly. You know, I know this industry. Trust me, it's not easy. Like you said, it's not. You're being told one thing, and then when you get there, you're being told something else. It's great that you didn't stop. You kept going. And you have this, and look how far it went.
Thank you. That's the battle, right?
Exactly.
That's the battle.
It really is.
Yeah.
So with all those, with all those that are listening, Tiffany, I want you to muster up and tell me your high of this and your low.
Okay. The high of this was definitely the interviews. That was that was just incredible. I loved interviewing. I mean, you know, as an actor, I always loved rehearsal more than the performance. You know, it's just finding out about Kevyn and wondering where this story would go, and sort of, you know, getting to know him and the family and his, you know, close childhood friends. Like, all that was like the best.
Oh.
And then the low was last year in the summer in putting the edit in. You know, I want to be professional and like not ever talk about this, but I think it'll help so many people.
Yes.
That, you know, we hired an editor for a lot of money. You know, none of us were paid, you know, so we're paying the editor rightfully, and they took the movie like away from me. And I don't know what allowed me to let this happen. It was like I was talking to myself like, she knows best. Like, this person knows best. She knows best. She's done this before. And I was not like allowed in the room. I don't know why I didn't check to see if this is the way my friends were making their documentaries. You know, I don't know. And then finally, I would watch cuts of it and be like giving notes, and these notes then wouldn't be applied. And then it was told to me that this person was never going to apply my notes.
Wow.
Didn't agree with my vision and thought it was silly. And if so-and-so was in the film, they would take their name off the movie. And, you know, this all got back to me, and I just had like a total meltdown, had to let the editor go, and this was all like 5 seconds before the Toronto deadline.
Oh.
So, yeah, and I mean, like, that was a regret that was really hard to get over. That why didn't I demand to be in the room with this person? Why did it was also manipulative and convincing me that this isn't the way a good film gets made, with the director, you know, hanging over me. And I was like looking one day, and I was like across the table from the interns in the post-production office who were covering scripts, and I was like, why am I looking at this 19-year-old intern and not my editor right now? You know?
Yeah.
And then when I watched like a cut, finally, I was like, my husband looked at me, I was just in tears, and I said, what would stop me from just texting through this whole movie and like being on Twitter and not watching this movie?
Yeah.
This is the most boring, awful, this person hates Kevyn. There's no love in this movie. This is terrible. And so luckily, everything turned out great. And it turned out that process allowed for a supreme rough assembly, which the editor could, you know, all he did, what do you want here? What do you want here? I was like, oh, is this how this works?
Right. Absolutely.
And why didn't I trust myself? Like, you know, I don't know. Why doesn't anybody? You know, I don't know. But it really also told me, because everything that's in that movie that someone cites in a good review is something that I demanded is in there. And so it just validated me. And I'm like, oh, I'll never let that happen again.
Good.
You know, I don't know it had to happen and why we had to waste all that money, but I guess it wasn't a waste because, again, there was this 5-hour, like, amazing rough cut that could be whittled down into what it is now.
That's
so,
great. And I'm glad you shared that. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad you shared that. Yeah, because of you sharing that, now I think anyone that's listening can, you know, if they're experiencing the same thing, that's now how it works. That's not how it works. I mean,
yeah.
The only time I've heard that the editor tells a story sometimes or has some input in telling the story, and it's way different. It's not documentary filmmaking. It's reality TV filmmaking.
Exactly.
Because as the editor, because I've done editing for reality once, and they were the director or pretty much I co-directed, but the director sat with me and told me like, hey, you know, as the editor, essentially you're telling the story more because you're going to find where the timing is and all that. And with reality, it's completely different because you have to make it look like reality when it's actually not really reality. But so I think that's the only time they don't take control of it because they know as an editor, you know what the story is. It's not your vision. Your vision is to follow what the director's vision is. So you should have been, you know, that's a really great topic and point to share because anyone that's starting out, if you're the writer director, if you're the director, that's your vision. It's you that puts it out there. You're saying, this is what I want. And let's find a way to get what I want, you know, and you tell the editor, this is how I want it. Now, I understand some things get lost or it can't be cut. And I'm not talking about documentary. I'm talking about like when it's more the acting of it. If we couldn't find the right coverage, then you have to sometimes lose certain things. That's different. But for the most part, as a director, the editor, the relationship there, it's your vision overall. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw how it was supposed to be, I mean, that's so exciting. Like I'd say to Ezra, the eventual editor, I would say like, you know, I just want it to seem like this. And then he'd be like, oh, well, we have this and we have this and we have this. Let's try all three, you know, and oh, okay, yeah, I like the third one, you know, and that collaboration is amazing. And you can't do that without a good editor, you know, who can access that vast footage, you know, just in their mind like that, you know, and organize it and express it.
And I also believe too, like obviously, like you have to kind of interview the people that you're going to be working with. Sometimes it sounds so weird in our industry to interview, but at the same time, like, you know, editing. The process of editing is long and
tedious.
Can be tedious and challenging. But the thing of it is like if you can find somebody, and this boils down to anybody, you know, in any industry, if you boil down to this, if you can find the person that you can withstand being, you know, like in high stress situations for super long hours, you know what I mean? Like, and you can still have a smile at the end of the day, even if there's like a little tension in between here and there, because, you know, it happens, you know, we're working like, you know, 12-hour days, sometimes 15, hopefully not, but it happens, you know, I mean, it's what it is. So if you can do that and find those people, like it sounds like you found a really good fit that matches who you are and what your message is about.
And I do want to interject real quick. It's not anything bad against editors because I've done it. When I said tedious, I meant to say like, when I sit there and I get frustrated, like, oh, this is not what I want, like, and it's like a sliver off and you're trying to get it to the right cut point. So editors, like, you guys are amazing. You do an amazing job. Trust me, that it has nothing to do as in general. I'm just saying like what Robin's saying to the point is find the people that you work well with. That's ideal with anything you do. You know, you're going to have some people that you don't agree with or, you know, that happens. That's just life. That's just what it is. But it's really important to have that relationship that, you know, because then you have an understanding and respect towards each other.
Yeah, because I think the perspective changes you. You know, like your first editor, it wasn't the greatest fit. You know, like maybe that editor was fantastic at storytelling, but it wasn't the right way of telling this particular story. So you finding this right fit and you being, you know, obviously, like, your tone has changed and you can hear it in your voice. Like, you were so excited, like, oh my gosh, okay, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And then the suggestions and that editor knowing here's this, you have this, and this. Like the fact that there's options and the fact that they're willing to work because they're excited and they're passionate about it, you know, that just means that you did your job because you've moved an editor as well. And that's what they do all day. You know, they look at footage and they cut it together, but you having that story that's compelling enough to move them to be excited to say, this is what we have, this is what we could do.
That's true.
Kudos to you and your team, you know, like that's fantastic. And I like the fact that you said you have these family production dinners. I'm going to be in New York. I'm going to hit you up. I'm going to be like, hey.
Yes! Yes. I would love that.
Yeah, that's great. Making connections from the East Coast to the West Coast. So, like, where does your film have a website of its own? Do you have a website? You know,
how can people find you?
The movies is Kevyn Aucoin Films, KEVYN OAU COIN film.com, and then all of the stuff. I do most of the updates and everything on Instagram, which is Kevyn Aucoin Film as well, and I am Tiffany Bartok on everything, and that's it. My husband and my production company is called Vinyl Foot Production.
Ooh. Wait, hang on, sorry, because it clicked. What was that again?
Our company is called Vinyl Foot Production.
Vinyl Foot?
It's like when we first got married, we started it, and I think he said, I want to call it Vinyl Foot because I always wanted a band named Vinyl Foot, and now we're stuck with this name. So that's our name. And he has to look at it every day when he writes checks.
That's okay. You know why? Because it gives a great story, and it shows your growth.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
No, I like it. That's funny. I like it. It's creative, though. I give him that. That's creative. Now I want to know what the band was. But that's
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, and then you added an E, foot, FOOTE. You know, because he's like, I want it to sound German.
Oh.
Again, great footnotes. I mean, these are so fantastic to hear.
Pun intended.
Literally. No, I mean, I'm excited to know, like, right now you're still in the process of following the film, like, get to where it needs to get. And I'm hoping that it makes, like, the silver screen for, like, across the nation. That'd be really fantastic because, you know, I know that it's dropping on Amazon and you said Orchard is distributing it, correct?
Yeah, the Orchard has it on iTunes.
It has it on iTunes. Okay, so if you're listening in, you can find Larger Than Life on iTunes. It's going to be released July 31st. Also on Amazon, which is fantastic. It's, you know, especially if you're in the industry, this is someone that I want to say has been an influence across the board. So the fact that a millennial was moved by this is kind of awe-inspiring too, because it's kind of like, oh, I didn't know this existed. Oh, here's the connection, and that's where it stems from. So it sounds like he's a root and a foundation. And like, thank you for finding this story and like being able to tell it.
Well, thank you for telling it, because the fact that you're right, the fact that no one's ever shared it, and you're the one that 2018. Here you are. You're gonna share this story. And you said it was 4 years in the making. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe it. This is year 5, right?
That's good. I mean, it's being screened in California. I mean, this is
you won awards. Come on.
Yeah, this is wonderful. I mean, this is a great
to celebrate.
Growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Go
ahead.
This has been the most like affirmative, like awesome, positive podcast ever. Like, awesome. I think we should lift each other up every, Sunday at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. You guys are amazing.
Thank you. That's what this is for. Because the thing is, we have to constantly tell ourselves, remind ourselves that what we're doing is for a reason. We have cause and purpose for it, and we love to do it. We're talented, and we're showing it. That's what it's about. We have to always push ourselves to continue. Don't stop. Keep doing what you're doing. Just that's what it comes down to. And I'm so glad and happy every time I come to this and do this podcast. I walk away super, super stoked because I got to meet another person that's just amazing. So really, thank you for being amazing.
Thank you. You guys, you're amazing too. I mean, just to give people a platform to talk about all this hard stuff to the only other audience that's ever going to understand. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that too, because that's one thing is you want to make sure, like, you're not crushing someone's dreams. You want to keep building them up and lifting them up. Like, I mean, I've always told every person, like, hey, if I'm available, I'm down to help. Like, if there's budget, no budget, that's just that's what I want to do. Like, I was actually just filming, I was camera operating for another DP, a friend of mine, and we were filming people volunteer, like, in the LA food bank, and, you know, doing good, and, you know, picking weeds out of, like, community gardens, and, like, harvesting food and passing it out. Like, that's amazing. And I was like, I want to put this camera down, and I want to volunteer too. So,
Which you did.
Which I did do, because I'm a nerd. But you know what I mean? Like, just keep lifting each other up, and, like, you know, sometimes when you're so close to something, you don't see how great it is because you've been working so hard to get it to where it is that you forget. And I'm so glad that you came on with us, you know, and sounds like you've been revived, and it makes me so happy because I'm just like, yes, like, that is the whole point of this show.
Exactly. Spot on right there. Okay, so Tiffany, I just want to say again, thank you so much. Thank you for making this film. Please make some more, okay? Because you're good. You're great at what you're doing. Do the makeup thing. Don't stop what you're doing, but keep making films like this. Honestly, don't stop.
Thank you so much for that. I'm gonna record that, and I'm gonna just play it every morning.
Well, you can find those recordings on iTunes and Google Play.
Yeah, so this will be up, and we'll hear it and inspire others, I hope. So please keep doing what you're doing. I hope to have you back on telling me how the Gucci project went, and we can go from there. So.
Yes, awesome. Yes, absolutely.
So you have a happy Sunday, okay? And thank you again, Robin. Thanks for being my co-host today.
Anytime, lovelies.
You guys have a wonderful day.
Have a great week.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you so
Tiffany.
much. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Female Filmmakers Fuse with Alexa Polar, only on LA Talk Radio.